you are within one person the equivalent of about a 50k a month salary for 6 or 7 different people combined.
It's what costing me, I think, like $50 Australian to run a month. I'm just gonna let it.
That's crazy too, man. Like $50 a month for a site that's ranking, in the top pages of Google. This sort of viral marketing loop that you've sort of created, big blogs, backlinks. You're out of your mind, Dan.
I launched it on Reddit, right? So it went back to Reddit where I sort of validated the idea. Kind of just said, built a Canberra restaurant directory to help with all the restaurant recommendation requests. Within 2 days, it was up to 40,000 views, 100 comments, 100,000 people or something like that.
While you got another day job, a little one, and another baby on the way. Like that, you literally exemplify what's so cool about this sort of moment in time, and how just by using your own intuition and imagination and creativity, you can build these type of things and literally just see this type of upward growth that, man, just people pay, big bucks to try and get this type of impact.
Thank you to all the effort and knowledge and support, you've poured into this, because I think it's changed a lot of people's lives and a lot of people's perspectives.
Clap, 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 we're done just right. 5-day sprint took us to new heights. Make it, build it, your dreams ignite. We're making moves at turbo pace.
Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Members At. Now, Members At is a series that we're starting on the community to kind of show you guys a behind the scenes of what other community members are building, what they're doing, how they're thinking about the projects. And I think this is a great way for us all to share in each other's journeys and hopefully open up more conversation for all of you guys to also share what's happening in your journeys, maybe even make connections with other members of the communities, and also kind of get to put a face to the name of some of the people that you'll see. So our first guest today is someone that I've had the pleasure of seeing, really grow in a wonderful way over the last sort of 6 months in the community. He's all the way in Australia, which makes this even more special because we have people from all over the world. And I think, seeing this is delightful for me and also a great experience for you guys as well. And hopefully if there are other members in Australia or that part of the world, hopefully you can connect up with this gentleman in person. If not, you guys from around the world, can have access to him as well from wherever you are too. So, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our first guest today, our community member, Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Omar. Hey, community. How are you all going?
We're good, man. We're good. I speak on behalf of all the community and say we're good. You could really speak on behalf of the community better than I can, though.
I'm going good.
Good, man. Good. Well, look, Dan, we had a brief chat, a few months ago, but I think this one will be so much, more enriched with, great content and, progress since we've last spoken. So just getting straight into it, I think the thing that fascinates me the most is that you've a few things. First of all, you're just, a regular dude working a regular job who decided, I've never done anything technical before and I'm just going to dive in and, give this thing a shot. And you jumped into the 5-day sprint and you got started. So that's what the first thing that I thought was fascinating. And the second and third thing that made it even more fascinating for me were that you managed to actually build something by yourself using the tutorials in the community. You then managed to actually get it to rank number 1 in Google, I believe. And your marketing strategy that you use to actually drive the growth for this, I found, just superb, and again, just an example of how you can use your own intuition and imagination. So let's go straight in, man. I would love to, just get a bit of your story of, what made you lean into AI, and then, how the first, idea for this special project came about.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for the kind words and compliments. That means a lot coming from you. So, so my name's Daniel, Dan, whatever you want to call me. So based in Canberra, Australia. I guess came to the community in around January, I think, this year. Probably after the first episode you did with Greg back in the day, actually. and was just really kind of taken and inspired with the way of thinking about building these products kind of on scale, right, with the new tools that we have out there, with AI and automation and the AI SEO element, etc. So I was sort of inspired by that, and then in my day job, which I've recently just left, I was looking for ways to kind of learn about more about AI automation to sort of stay ahead of the curve, because I was in a sort of senior technology leadership type role, and I could see the kind of wave coming, right? So I thought, okay, well, I've got to get a bit of a project going here, just to educate myself, because I'm a big believer in just learning kind of by doing and iterating kind of the process and the methodology that you talk about a lot, which I 100% agree and get behind. And yeah, so followed some of the steps in the various courses in the community, and got best restaurants Canberra off the ground, and on not quite number one, but on the first page of Google, using all the sort of methods that we've spoken about in probably about I think it's been live for about 4 months now. So yeah, it's bit of a wild journey, a great learning activity, and certainly sort of I've got so many more ideas now from going through that process, right? So it's been great. It's been great.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's get into it. Let's see the actual site itself. I'm very excited to show everyone what you actually built. So we've got Best Restaurants Canberra here. So first of all, talk us through, like, where did that idea come from? How did you kind of go about, the domain name, which is a brilliant domain name as well.
Yeah. So my first idea I had was around building out a directory, local kind of city directory for Canberra, Australia. For people that don't know, it's actually the capital of Australia. A lot of people think Sydney or Melbourne is, but Canberra is, and we're a relatively small city of around 450,000, so it's quite a sizable population, but still not a mega competitive city like doing something like this in Sydney or Melbourne would be. And what I originally wanted to make was one that was focused around home services, because I'm a homeowner here. I've got a house, things break, I need a gardener or a cleaner or a builder or whatever. So I was like, okay, I can make something around that, use the sort of principles from the community and build that out. And so when I actually went through and did the keyword research on those terms, like, I don't know, pest control Canberra or builders near me, and all those sort of permutations of those home services type keywords, I found the volume was quite low for any specific one keyword, but en masse there was a lot of volume, right? But then as I was going through that process, I actually found through some of the related terms, Best Restaurants Canberra, right? Which if I just bring up my organic keywords here.
So this is Ahrefs for those of you who are watching this. This is what we use to actually track and find what type of keywords people are searching for, and it basically helps us understand intent, right? And if you can understand intent, that's sort of a good kind of leading principle of the type of ideas that we should be building, and maybe can also open us up to new ideas as well. I've come across so many interesting keywords that I would never have thought would be anything fascinating, but it's really interesting to do this activity. So how did you? So is this kind of how you started searching for the keyword?
Yeah. Okay. So I was going through Ahrefs around builders, plumbers, all those sort of things you need if you have a house. And then I actually saw Best Restaurants Canberra, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. 3.5 thousand monthly average searches. It was probably quadruple equivalent search in a home services search. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. So then I went. I think when I looked at it originally, I think it was about 22. So not in the hard category, but but a bit lower. So, fitting into some of the things you've talked about in the community around what to look for when you're using this tool. And then jumped onto GoDaddy, could get the exact match domain. And I was like, okay, well, sort of job done. Like, this is, I think I can get something here, the exact match domain, high search volume, relatively low keyword difficulty. Let's go down that path, right? So even from the start, I was able and willing to, I guess, change my direction and the way I wanted to go, based on what the data was telling me, which I think is an important kind of point. Like, it's all, it's great to build anything and build anything exciting, but you can build something potentially a lot more impactful by looking at the data, right? And so that's sort of how we kicked it off and how we got there. So yeah, Ahrefs definitely a big kind of input to the process for me for this directory.
So was it Keywords Explorer sort of the main tool that you used, or were there other activities inside Ahrefs?
Yeah, so I was in the Keywords Explorer piece, and I was just going through, if I'd had like, if I was in here and just had like, plumber, Canberra, and I was seeing things like this, like 1.1 volume, blah, blah, blah. And as I was clicking through these kind of different searches, I was then, going through the related terms. So that's, I think, where I'm still learning, but, adjacent searches to the keyword that you're, that you've entered. And it was through one of these where I found, best restaurants, Canberra.
Yeah, so, I think even that graph that on the right side, I find so insightful. That the trend graph, and that's such an important sort of visual to look at, because you can often find these interesting trends of things that are starting to take off. I'm sure if you search something like Labubu right now or whatever, you'd see like a big upward trend. K-pop demon hunters or whatever, so that's like kind of in the zeitgeist right now. And but the most interesting thing to me are these sort of keywords that you wouldn't think would be anything special, but you're seeing this crazy interesting upward trend. And there's and there's a variation of factors that could play a part in that. It could be, especially with directories like this, you might be seeing the benefit of that growth through the tourism market in all of Australia, or maybe just in that specific locality. Maybe they're spending extra money to bring more people in, or maybe there's more and more restaurants open up because there's been some more incentive internally. So there could be all these different sort of trends going on. But I find that fascinating because nothing shows more of a better signal for growth than that sort of graph there.
Yeah, and I think the other sort of validation signal I picked up was through, if I just jump through to Reddit, right, which I can come back to when we talk about marketing.
You are the Reddit king now.
Marketing shortly, but I was on our local, this is our city Reddit, and every like second day or third day, someone's asking about restaurants. Like if I just go new. Yumchar on North Side, kid-friendly cafes, spicy food recommendation, halloumi dishes, or like, there's hundreds of these pages, right, on that I would just see on Reddit as I was going through, and I sort of didn't really, just looking at Reddit and just scrolling it as you do, I didn't really connect the dots until then I saw this, and I was like, oh, hold on. Wait, I've seen people asking for this on Reddit. This signal now I've got with Ahrefs. That's a pretty positive sign that you could create something and it would be usable and valuable to the local community, as well as people visiting the city. Being the capital, we've got obviously like Parliament's here and all that, so you got people coming from interstate here. It's got an increasing tourism metrics. So there's a lot more tourists coming to Canberra over the last 10 years. Again, because it's the capital, we've got all embassies here, and so you've got foreign delegations and people coming in from other places in the world. So that kind of those sort of signals, I was just like, okay, yeah, well, this is I'll do this to as a good learning project, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. So then give us a little bit a walkthrough through the site then, because it'd be good to see the type of features you've built. I think I was really impressed with the UI as well. It's very, very clean. So yeah, this was you built this completely from scratch, right? So just walk us through a little bit of that building process for you as well, especially given the fact that you had no experience and hadn't built anything before. It's wildly impressive that you put this together so quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. I actually, so I think I started off with the automation, which I was using Make. I'm familiar with that from previous life. So again, very just akin to Zapier, right? So and it's a very similar flow, I guess, to what you were. I was mainly following the Guilty Chef classroom to do this because I think at that stage the Best Dubai one was sort of your round one of going through building out that site, and I found that I was taking concepts from that, but then it was really the sort of Guilty Chef one that I followed the detailed kind of automation steps, so kind of blending the two together there. But I built out this automation, which again uses Appify. So I was using the place. I've got another automation where I'm entering a place ID that's being seen by Appify. Appify is then going and doing that scrape, and then I'm watching for that scrape here, right? So I think that's the same as how Best Dubai was previously set up. And then I'm taking this through, again, quite a similar process, but slightly different to the Zapier one. And I had to do a lot of iteration and back and forth with Claude to actually get some of this automation to work. I think a key difference here is I'm not running that little Python script that you had. I'm actually transforming it all into a JSON and then passing it through Claude. I've got the big long prompt where I'm saying, I want you to pick out this data for me. Again, then converting that back into JSON and then generating schema and then storing it all in Airtable, right? So I think this flow all up took me about, I was working on it at sort of 2 hours a night. Probably took me 3 weeks to do. Like I wasn't doing it every day, but
but that's just wild, man. Yeah. That's an entire, and I said this before in the community as well, things like this are the equivalent of, maybe 2 or 3 employees, so maybe a researcher, someone on the technical side, doing some of the, heavy lifting in terms of architecture, but to have all that within, one simple workflow that you can just do within a few weeks, it would take you, longer than that to even onboard one person, into your team. So that's brilliant. And then you're sending it all into Airtable, right?
Yeah. So I use this as kind of like a staging point before I sent it to Webflow, because I found that sometimes I wanted to, if I just jump in, the short description could be a bit kind of AI-y, even though I'd sort of fed it examples of what I wanted to sound like. I might go in and just top and tail it, make some adjustments here and there, but largely it's probably 90-95% fit from the go.
And was there logic of you adding it to Airtable to help with the process of then sending the data into Webflow later on? Was that kind of
it was more like I was familiar with Airtable from previous corporate roles that I'd had, so familiar with navigating it. I was familiar with the there's a bit more power I found with almost treating it more like a database. So, I've got tables up here, similar to what you're doing in Superbase at the moment with kind of the framework. And then I just found it easier to navigate if I needed to change things. Like I found the Webflow CMS was a bit, it's not a database, right? It's a bit sort of clunky, trying to see a lot at once. Here I can just cut it down to, I've got a ready to publish view. So if I had some things loaded in here that had gone through the flow, and I could just see them all here, like if I had any in that publication state, they'd be there, right?
Yeah.
And I had to do a few things, like I had to, do some troubleshooting where I had some weird kind of like coding logic in some of the opening hours, right? Some weird HTML. So I could just create a view of that, take all the data out, feed it back into Claude, like desktop, and get it to just clean up that set, right? So yeah, I just a bit easier to navigate the data.
It's interesting because it's almost like what you're doing is you're kind of taking these sort of principles of the workflow, but really customizing it to the way your brain works. And I think that I find that interesting, and I think that's such a unique insight that can be very valuable to a lot of community members as well, which is paying attention to maybe even things that you've done in your career, things that you've seen patterns of behavior that work well for you when you're working on projects, and then applying those to this type of workflow can be very interesting, because there's like a million ways to make this thing happen. And really you want to optimize for the best output that you can personally get, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, I'm in the business I'm starting. I'm working with a client at the moment to generate an automated proposal system, right? So he's pumping out a lot of proposals to scale his business up, and he's just so time poor. And yeah, the point around there's a million ways to solve the one problem with the new tools out there is true. Yesterday I was just like, okay, do I send it to Airtable or do I send it to here? And what's the trigger? Like, I could pick up the trigger to start the process from multiple different parts. And so I think that's important as well. And that's where I found just like, even just talking to Claude or ChatGPT, whatever you use, just to sort of almost like as a dev brain dump partner where you can kind of like
absolutely
sort of get a few ideas.
Well, that'd be a really, really good project to run through the framework, I think. Because
I did think about that as well.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I can see a lot of the work that you've done for what it is, but also with the shift in how the framework works and the way we're building Best Dubai now. And interestingly, I'm also going through that shift where I built this whole thing in one way and now translating it into a new way of working. And how are you thinking about that? Are you considering rebuilding, readjusting, like leveraging kind of the new ways of building things? Because I really think like with your mind and unlocking what's possible with Claude Code, the framework, I think, you'll just take this to a whole different level, especially on the agency side, by the way, as well. Like products like this you're speaking of are just things you could just, smash out within a few days.
I am. So from this, I've got a whole like V2 sort of backlog, right? So I just use Todoist to manage a whole bunch of this stuff. But, this is feedback.
What tool is that you're using?
Todoist.
Oh, no.
So it's just like a to-do project management light kind of software. But I've got a project set up just with the website, Best Restaurants Canberra. A number of kind of functions, I guess, to work on. Thinking it more like as a system than just a website and a business. And so, I'll be lying if I said I'll go in here daily and work on it, because I'm a busy guy about to have another kid and in the back seat for now. However, what I'm doing, particularly as a tie into my agency, is I am going to take the same concept and create a directory focused on the local city with listings for my target client base for the agencies. I'm focusing on sort of local service-based businesses in several defined verticals, and I'm going to create the directory for them, but also for the people of Canberra, and then almost use that as a lead gen wedge into those businesses to sell my service on the back
Yeah,
end,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Serving both like the community in that, what are all the dentists or physiotherapists or whatever in the city. I can create this and then almost use that as a conversation starter to those businesses to say, hey, I've created this thing, free advertising, no cost. Just want to like validate the data with you, right? And then bang, you're in for a conversation. Some people might go for it, some might not. But it's a lot easier than to start the conversation rather than just sending a cold email or
Yeah, yeah,
try
yeah,
to do a cold call, right? Which I will do as well. But
yeah.
so that's sort of the first directory. I think I'll run through the framework. But having watched some of the content that you've been doing with Best Dubai and the rebuild, I am thinking of almost like rebuilding Best Restaurants Canberra, because when I look down this feature list, and this is all from people that have used it and have seen it on Reddit and sort of provided feedback in comments or via the contact us form or whatever. I know from going through the webflow component, and I'm not a web designer. It's the first website I ever built, and I've got a whole new appreciation for website builders and devs after doing that. I know some of these will take a lot of time and effort just for me to figure out, right? So it's like, what's the return on investment for me of the time, especially when I'm trying to build this business out, versus like, I still want to work on this because I think it's still a cool, interesting project. And so I feel like some of these things, even like adding a map feature, just a map where all the restaurants in the directory are pinned, that would probably take me hours, right, just to figure that out and just pay down that learning tax.
Yes.
Whereas with the framework and what I've seen you doing and others that have posted in the community recently, I just think it'll be like infinitely quicker, right? Just to get that MVP and that first one up. So yeah, I think I will go to the rebuild eventually. Just gotta see where it sits on the.
Of course, the priority list. You got a baby on the way as well. No, but actually, I think that exactly the point you just made. Your to-do list is a great example of a similar sort of a challenge that I was having, where our imagination can sometimes be greater than the speed at which we can build, even though you can build so fast using this even webflow process. But I think on one side, you have to have this sort of systems thinkings approach where you can take a complex product, a workflow, and the visual example of that is your make.com or Zapier workflow, where you can actually see the individual components required to actually make one workflow happen, such as, getting the restaurant listed. And that's just one sort of feature, right? Now, if you want to introduce, let's say, the map feature or something else, that becomes its own workflow, or you have to go and figure that out and build in APIs. And I think that's what for me became just such a breeze with the new way of working, that I could just have ideas and just execute them. Almost like I'm so excited to actually build ambitious ideas because I know that I don't have to do this whole figuring out how to automate the whole process now. I can just sort of speak to Claude Code, just say to it, hey, this is what I want to do, and it will just sort of create it. So even things like, for a long time, we've had the idea of, what if people could build their own custom itineraries, in the directory, and like, well, that's something that we would just want to build in now. That's like a day's worth of work, right? So all these features that would otherwise be highly complex are things that you can just, smash out straight away.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I think I'd probably I think there's value definitely in still going down that. I don't want to say the old route, but what before you built the framework, still going down that route, because I think if you've never built anything like this, it's sort of almost like forces you down that,
Yes.
that systems thinking approach is
Yes.
100% spot on. It's like, okay, I want to get to this outcome. What are like the building blocks I need to make that happen? Where am I going to get that stuff from? How, what's even in the art of the possible? And then how do I get that to kind of display on a page and look nice and all that? I think that was a huge learning experience for me that I'm super grateful for doing that. And I think, it's a balance, right? I think the speed's one thing. I think learning, just grinding through it on the first one is probably worthwhile, maybe, and then you can just 10x your sort of output when you kind of go into that like super iterative approach, because you just know where to ask the machine to go get the stuff for you, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah. I think there's still definitely value, especially going through some of those like the existing classrooms, and still doing some of the I did a couple of the kind of those littler projects at the start, and just followed on with your great videos, so I could just learn in that, and follow along. I think 100% still worth it. And then getting into the framework, like I'm using it now to build my website for my agency, right? And it's just mind blowing how quickly you can get through things, right? So,
absolutely, man, absolutely. Yeah, the speed of it is insane. But yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's been something that, even when new beginners have entered the community, we've been sort of echoing that to them. Say, look, go through the starter pack, like start to understand some of the tools that we're using, start to build out some of the more simpler projects. And again, just to be able to get used to and warm your muscles up in a way, right, in this sort of AI space. Then once you've got that, you can add on the speed and whatever. It's a bit like, if you're training in the gym, you want to get your form right before you start lifting heavy weights. So we really want you to get your form right in the first place. But again, it just depends on everyone's own way of learning. I prefer more of an approach of just sort of diving straight in. But everyone is kind of adapting to their own ways. But there's something for everyone to enter where you need to. I'm really keen to dive into how you actually blew this thing up, because we're talking first page of Google, which is insane. We're talking basically going viral on Reddit, and this is all from a project that you just set up and got live within a few weeks. All of this just kind of blows my mind. So walk us through that a little bit. What was that process like? How did you get this type of exposure? Of course, you've implemented the AI SEO into the site as well. So just walk us through that a little bit. I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah. So the site. So if I just start with, I guess, the site structure, and again thinking about how this product serves like the local community, right? So the design is pretty, I guess, clean, basic is what I'll call it, and probably a bit rough around the edges in some parts. But how I'd sort of architected the site was having, I've got to click here to see all restaurants, and this will take you to the big sort of long list, the collection page, I think it's called, of the big long list. But then structuring it around neighborhoods. So these are the various neighborhoods in Canberra. And again, Canberra's kind of like a very spread out city. And, people typically don't go from one end of the city to the other to go to a restaurant, right? So just having specific restaurant, if I just go city, neighborhood pages focusing around that specific neighborhood. And again, I'm getting the workflow and Claude to analyze all that from the Google Maps extraction. And then again, having it around cuisines. So if I just go Chinese, having all the Chinese restaurants on the website.
Yeah. So just to pause there for a minute, I think, the unique thing here is just the URLs obviously that you're generating each time, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
that's what's so important about this AI SEO approach is basically if you're creating content in a dynamic way, every time you're adding something, it's kind of creating a new URL such as, /Chinese, /American or whatever it is.
yeah,
And then,
yeah,
based on, different, could be cities, localities, whatever, however you want to, structure it. But all of those URLs become keywords effectively. So now you've got
yeah,
best, Chinese restaurants, Canberra, and Dan's site should come up, in
yeah,
that sort
yeah.
of top position.
Yeah, and interestingly, I've actually struggled to rank these kind of neighborhood pages or the kind of head cuisine page for
Mm-hmm.
some reason. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't gone and investigated that too much because I don't think the search volume is massive for those
Yeah,
specific.
I think also what I noticed with like Guilty Chef, took off a lot faster than Best Dubai, and what I noticed was that much of it is down to the category of tourism, right? Travel and tourism
Mm,
is one of the highest sort of like search intent categories in the
yeah,
world. So
yeah,
competition is high in general in terms of the types of sites that are out there. You're up against your TripAdvisors, Open Tables of the world.
yeah,
But also there's a lot of content around that people are also trying to rank for, a lot of blogs, etc. And so I think to build that authority with Google and have it really trust you, I think like the bar is also a little higher in terms of everything from responsiveness to user experience to quality of content to how often you're updating content. So as I was experimenting with some of these tweaks, and again, why I'm excited about doing with the framework more is it gives me much more ability to experiment and tweak and change things over time and see how that impacts rankings. But I definitely noticed even something in this travel tourism space was a bit more of a slow burner in
yeah,
terms of seeing the traffic grow, but it will.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's great perspective, and like, yeah, good to hear that it's
Yeah.
sort of a similar situation for yourself. Yeah, I found like the individual ones rank okay, but yeah, those primary categories, I guess you'd call them, yeah,
Mm.
definitely a bit of a challenge. But yeah, so structured that way, and then if I just open up Happy's, a bit of a Canberra institution, been around since the '60s, I think.
Nice.
Um, so this is the sort of layout, right? And I think when we caught up last, Omar, I said, what is it? Imitation's the best form of flattery. You'll notice some of the design
Take it, man. It's all there for you to take.
borrowed. Um, but what I actually found, actually building in Webflow, and I started to use the template that you'd provided to the community, the Webflow kind of template.
Hmm.
But I actually found it almost harder to shoehorn what I needed to into that template, which
Mm.
then almost like was a good learning experience to force me to learn about, like, even I didn't even know what a div block was, and
Hmm.
what columns are and all that sort of thing, right? So sort of like going through and learning that was good. And then the other thing I didn't account for, which going round two I definitely will, was I was designing it all on the desktop view, and then when I
Ah,
flipped
this
to
is a classic
mobile,
mistake.
yeah, and then when I flipped to mobile, I basically had to kind of reposition everything,
Oh,
and yeah, so uh, again, like rookie kind of error, fall into that
yeah,
trap.
don't worry, we'll be there. We'll
But
be
again,
there.
it was a good learning experience, right? Because then when I look at the data now, it's something like 75% of visitors are from a mobile device,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
to me is like, this sort of product, this sort of website kind of has to be a mobile
Hmm.
first,
Hmm. Hmm.
like, design principle. Which when you look at this on mobile, it actually looks better than what it does here on the
Yes.
desktop, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, the sort of classic about popular dishes, opening hours, features. So, I want to turn this into tags and things like that. But for version one, I was just like, just get me the text, and I'll kind of build it all out later. And then some interlinks between the sort of websites, back through to um, the different categories and
Yeah, and again, this plays such a cool role with the SEO as well, just like that internal linking.
yeah,
And again,
yeah,
not to uh, almost show off too much, but but to show off that what's really cool is now what I'm seeing with this rebuild of Best Dubai is all of this sort of internal linking process can all be automated as well. So it just goes and finds the best pages to link to, organically connect them, and so you're just building up such a volume of internal linking, which you have to do manually using webflow, right? There's no way of doing that, otherwise, unless you're doing it with just connecting to categories, etc., in a CMS. But if you're actually trying to take content like in that about section there, if you want to then go and link it to other pages, it becomes a bit of a headache. So even that process, like automating it, etc., will just makes your life a lot easier and can allow you to go faster as well.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the sort of general structure of each page. And so I found when I was if I just jump over to Ahrefs and look at some of the traffic, right? Because I think you asked what was the sort of launch story and how did I kind of get there. So I think I launched, when was this, 11th of June, and my traffic was very kind of flat for that first month, and actually had a bit of a crisis moment where I lost the main keyword of best restaurants Canberra. So I think when I launched I was 75th, and then I lost it, and I was just like, how do I even get this back right? I didn't even know anything about indexing or the Google Search Console or whatever. So I ended up getting in there. I could see some indexing issues. I published kind of both sites, one with the www and one without that. So, Google was getting confused what to look for. So I had to work through that whole process, kind of resolve that. And then I got my main keyword back, again, best restaurants Canberra, but in Russia, not in Australia. Wrong target.
I can see that as well. Russia, is that Russian Federation? It says, right?
Yeah. So one person. So I was just like, what is going on here? And I was like, how can I just get a big traffic spike, I guess, which is what we see here. And so I launched it on Reddit, right? So it went back to Reddit, where I sort of validated the idea and kind of just said, built a Canberra restaurant directory to help with all the restaurant recommendation requests, right? So kind of just saying, hey, I've noticed this in the community, created this product, hopefully help with that, would love some feedback, or if you have anything you'd like to recommend, kind of shout out, right? And so, within kind of 2 days, it was up to 40,000 views, 276 comments, upvotes, 100 comments. And I think in the Reddit community, there's maybe 100,000 people or something like that. So, and the feedback from just people I've never met was I'd say 99.95% positive and encouraging, right? And it was sort of the first thing where I've put something out there into the world, and just been blown away actually by how people respond to that, right?
Wow.
So, and then through this, so this guy, what a monster job, I'd suggest for the moment add a filter. So he's giving me feedback on the product, right? So he's basically saying, I want to be able to filter by location and cuisine, great feedback. And makes sense. So then I was going through this post and just responding to everyone, and then taking the feedback and putting it over back into Todoist as my backlog, right? So this guy was asking for a few restaurants, and I just put them on there, right? Bang, here you go.
See, I love that. I love that, because that's like exactly what you should be doing. Like, you're creating a product, you're then almost building a community around it, by using tools that already exist. You can do this on X, you can do this on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you've done it on Reddit, and then you're getting direct feedback. You're creating something that people are kind of looking for. You're posting it in the right place, you're getting direct feedback. You're jumping on that feedback to actually show them that you're active, which builds more trust with that community and kind of brings them even closer to you. And that's how you really get this sort of, those 100 true fans that you kind of need to start with, right? To really get the product off the ground. So this is fantastic. Just the fact that you're doing that, man, is awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, I sort of my plan kind of in the back of my mind, and again back to the priority list when I get to it, is then to go round 2 and just go, hey, version 2's being released, like thanks to all the feedback, and almost create a new post referencing this one. And just again get that engagement going and that traffic, keep that traffic uptick going. So yeah, that was probably one element of it. And if I go back to the traffic graph, that's where, when did I post that? That was 4 months ago. So what are we? October. So yeah, June-ish. So it might have been July. So we had that uptick, and then it sort of petered again. And I was like, okay, I know about backlinks. I know that it's not about quantity, it's about quality, right? And so what I did is I just reached out I found, a dozen, blogs and Instagram pages and all that. And again, this is a good thing about Airtable, right? Is you can sort of keep all the data in one place and just create different data sets in it. So I started outreach data, and I just, okay, what are the blogs? Who can I find online that I can reach out to? Have a tracking status, almost like a bit of a CRM type thing, and then what am I reaching out to them about, right? So reached out to all these people, only got feedback, only heard back from one. However, that was this site, Her Canberra, which is primarily targeted at women in the Canberra region. But they have quite a big food and drink section that I use all the time to just like find out what's going on in new places, etc. And so I got a backlink from them in tiny, like this is just a news article of all things opening up. And so right down the bottom, right down the bottom.
Look at that little gem right there.
Hungry, not where to go. So bang, like backlink from a high authority site. Yes. And then that's what you can see here, that initial backlink at the end of July. And I got a spam one. That's this other line. But the one I've dropped back down to now is that original backlink. Dude, and then you can just see the traffic kind of growth from there, right? And that was the kick to page 1 for the target keyword.
Wow. And again, just using your initiative, like you are within one person the equivalent of about a 50K a month salary for 6 or 7 different people combined, right? Which is why it's so mind-blowing. You're, like we're saying, doing the architecture, you're doing the building, you're the developer, the designer, you're going to marketing research, you're executing the marketing strategy, you're the CMO, the CTO, everything, while you got another day job, a little one, and another baby on the way. Like that, you literally exemplify what's so cool about this sort of moment in time, and how just by using your own intuition and imagination and creativity, you can build these type of things and literally just see this type of upward growth that, man, just people pay, big bucks to try and get this type of impact, so hats off to you, man. I'm really, really impressed.
Thank you for the kind words. I mean, I really appreciate that. And I think the thing with it though is it was like, it was fun to build as well, right? And even like when you come up against the obstacles, like I've always been a bit of a grinder and kind of anything. Like I kind of, it's like, okay, we just got to get through this. And I had a lot of those moments. But again, like to your point around the power of the world we live in now and what's available to us, you have the tools there just to kind of get you through that. And it's like your perseverance and your ability to kind of push through the friction, which is going to, see the results in the end, right?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, this is. So I'm not actually too. I find sometimes, like Google, if you've gone to a page a lot, it'll put you, when you search for that term, you'll show up. It'll show the page you visited up higher a lot. So I think if I'd open an incognito window, and I'm not going to do that because I don't want to wreck the stream here.
Yeah, no, it'll still work though for sure. I can check it on my side too. Let's do that. Let me do a.
I think I'm about 5th at the moment for that target keyword.
Let's test you out. Let's test you out from Dubai.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see actually what it is from.
Where's my mouse? Best restaurants, Canberra. You got TripAdvisor. Got a few of these. Hello, Canberra. That's the lady there that you're speaking about. Let's see. There you go. So you're here. So, but it's probably more because of locality as well. So if you're, in Australia, you're going to get a better output anyway.
Yeah.
But that's This is brilliant. You can easily just be hitting up taking these guys off the spot though, for sure, man. And even like finding, have you started to see any impact on like in sort of LLM models with ChatGPT and things like that, and having your site being discovered? Have you noticed anything there at all yet?
I haven't actually tested it too much. I mean, in Ahrefs, you get like a bit of a. So I've had 4 ChatGPT citations and saying, but I don't know how trustworthy this is in Ahrefs at the moment. But I haven't sort of gone through and done kind of LLM searches, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's probably only a matter of time because I've built in all the things in the background that you've been teaching, like the AI SEO, local, rich, detailed local business schema, FAQ schema, all that is built in. So you would sort of assume the principles are the same kind of globally. And yeah, I should test it out. Actually, I should get onto ChatGPT and
it'll be cool to see, man. But this is just such a great framework you've set up, just as a scaffolding for your, to be able to grow this thing. And even, by the way, what's so interesting is, yes, you're having, a baby now, for example, and you might have to, shift focus a little bit. But guess what? Google is working in the background, doing its thing anyway. So you're naturally going to see an uptick, and you can carry on doing these activities in your spare time, whether it's the outreach processes, whatever. And this is exactly that. Like even I was saying to you at the start of the call, even seeing how this community has grown, it's all been a series of iterations, right? A series of curiosities along the way. And when something starts working a little bit and becomes interesting, okay, let's not necessarily systematize it to the point that we're almost, making, it even harder for ourselves to get the work done, but systematize it enough that, we can just lean on that more and do more of it, and if that means bringing in support to do that, whether that means focusing your time on that more. If you see an activity like this outreach thing work and you've got one placement, that's excellent, man. That's perfect. Now you just know, okay, well, I need to increase my, volume of people that I'm outreaching. And in that process, by the way, you can just totally automate, man. I'm goosebumps right now because I've recently been playing a lot with email automations with AI, and it's too much juice to go into on this call, but I'm going to share a lot more in the community about how you can use interesting marketing strategies to drive leads and customers, direct revenue customers as well for any type of business, let alone just directories too. So there are so many interesting sort of techniques that you can just use now to do outreach and be in front of the right audience.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like to your point around it just sort of ticking away, right? I haven't done anything to the site except publish. Every now and then I'll go in and probably go to Reddit and see if there's any new places people have spoken to, or go to one of those food blogs or whatever, or even just walking past the place, and I'll write it down, and then I'll just run it through the flow, and might upload 10 new places a month, or whatever. But other than that, like nothing has changed at all, and you can see it continues to kind of bobble up, right? So yeah, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes.
No, I love this. So okay, now where is your sort of mind right now? Where your curiosity is? Just perhaps just with this directory, but building at large. You mentioned you've started your own agency now. You've left your previous job. So what is this transition looking like for you now? What does the future look like for you? I suppose the future is AI for you, right? As it seems. So just walk us through that a little bit. I'm really fascinated by that sort of shift.
Yeah. So I guess my like where I'm sitting at, kind of business wise, work wise now, is I've started an agency focused on. There's a real gap in the market here to just do essentially like local SEO and help with sales process and sales administration automation for local businesses, right? Like everyone that serves the market here is actually located interstate or overseas. And so I've sort of gone, okay, what's it's because I haven't started a business before. Like what's a topic or a niche that I know enough about that I can kind of come in and position myself as with some authority and wanting to help the local community. Where have I got the advantage that, my advantage here is I'm actually here. And then how can I kind of help these people get more business, right? Because I think being able to position yourself as if you get me, you will get more, can kind of sometimes work better than I will save you admin time, right? So
absolutely.
So yeah, that's where I'm got into, and it's very new. I've already got kind of 3 or 4 clients. Actually, just closed another one. A guy was trying to call me.
Awesome. Okay. The clients are hungry.
Yeah. And I don't even have a website yet, right? As I mentioned.
This is perfect. Like, how much time do we waste on a logo and website and stuff? But actually, just getting started, man. You're like this. I think that's such a big takeaway from this call is that you should just get started and you figure out the details as you go along, right?
Yeah. And so my I love building things, like making these products. Like I've got from my corporate life a lot of experience in like setting up these business systems for companies. But where I'm at personally at the moment is I want something that I can get like quite like a steady cash flow quite quickly, right? And so that's why I've gone down this agency route of providing this service, this essentially local SEO customer conversion service to the local businesses, because I know I can, with what I'm learning in the community now, I'm doing everything manually at the moment, but I know I can productize and automate 80% of it, right? By I can already see the pathway of looking at using the framework, hooking that up to, data for SEO, using Shad CN to build out beautiful dashboards. So I should just be able to say, to a client, I can do their deep dive audit, which is currently taking me a day. I should be able to produce 80% of that in 10 minutes, right? Like I can see that path by using the framework. And so for me, it's like using the tool to actually solve business problems to then free myself up to either go and get more business and just do more without hiring more people, or like building out interesting products that can solve a totally different problem. I've got a whole long, I think I was saying to you before we jumped on the call, I've got a whole long Apple Notes list of like just ideas of problems that I think can be solved, which previously for me, like I know it can be solved, but I couldn't ever execute on it because I would have had to go get a developer, pay thousands of dollars, go through all the meetings, all the stuff you've spoken about. And I just don't have the time and capacity for that at the moment, right? So yeah, that's where sort of my mind's at with, starting the business, looking at, rather than to scale it up rather than building big teams and all that. Like, how can I use this technology now to just do more with kind of less overhead, right? And then my ultimate goal is obviously then setting up and having that business that's just providing that cash flow, then allows you to be more, I guess, creative and pursue, make certain bets on building a product that, it may fail, but you can kind of go again and go again and go again because you've got this steady business kind of feeding you, and essentially, like what I was like previously, I would have had a paycheck coming in. I don't anymore, so I've got to go generate that paycheck, right? So,
Man, I love the fact that you're so risk on. Anything that's worked for me has required that type of risk, requires some level of iteration, taking leaps, and especially, I've got 3 small kids, and most of my biggest risks have happened while they've been babies, and so you have to do that, and you have to have faith that you'll figure it out either way. And leaning into this space right now, AI agency space, is a great way of doing it. Everyone needs something that is AI optimized. It's funny because I'm actively trying to not take on projects, but they just keep coming to me. But in a way that I'm also being very selective now of like, hey, I can't be doing this because I need to be focusing on this and that, and I kind of have a little bit of that luxury of choice. However, the demand is like just, overpouring, and so what I think is an interesting concept that we've been talking about a little bit, in some internal discussions, is how do we use, some of these amazing people in the community like yourself who are learning, building, and almost like verify you as like, whether it's 5-day sprint experts, partners, whatever it is, and be able to say, hey, if we can't do this right now, here's Dan and his agency. We vetted him out. We know he's great and he can deliver on this work. And then, we can pass it. And basically the sale is effectively done in the first place, and you can just kind of take that on and, do what you need to. So, I think that's also very interesting because naturally the effect that we're having as a community, the effect that's, my profile is having now as well, we're naturally getting this, surge of demand as well in these other areas. And we just don't either have the capacity or the capabilities to be able to take everything on. But collaborating with people like you and what you're doing makes the agency model even more interesting. So, I think there's plenty of room for us to, collaborate with you guys and help see this through. And that, to me, the biggest reward, this is a great reward in seeing, what you've built by just using some of these resources and tools in the community. But over time, to be able to see you actually create that lifestyle that you're looking for, would be fascinating, man, and would be much more rewarding than even just an uptick in traffic. Like, let's see this convert into the bank balance and have a positive impact for you and your kids, man.
I mean that's right. I think for this project now, like I'm not even sort of worrying about monetization or anything like that. It's what costing me, I think, like $50 Australian to run a month, right? Like, I'm just gonna let it.
That's crazy too, man. Like $50 a month for a site that's ranking, in the top pages of Google, with this sort of viral marketing loop that you've sort of created. You're being listed on these sort of, big blogs. You're out of your mind, Dan. You're really too honest.
So I think I'm just going to let it run and see what happens with this one. But I can see like particularly back to sort of, do I go round to using the framework to build out even richer features and all that? And I've been watching some of the content in the classroom. I'm catching up on all that and just seeing the output. I'm like, okay, that output, like I can see if I took that approach with this product, I could see an exit, sales process for this at some point, right? Because you can make just this thing so rich, and the speed at which you can do it and the kind of value it creates, even just to like an adjacent blog, right? Like the blog I just I got the backlink from, right? I mean, they might want to get into this sort of, editorial media space, and like I can give them this product, right? So, I think all good things to think about once I get over a newborn arriving in a month, and
It's all
just
positive. This is wonderful. This is what you got a new lease of life within yourself, and physically in your own world with a new baby. So I think to have just this energy and this enthusiasm for the future. All of these are great examples you're setting, I think, for people that are watching, and you really define, I think, the type of person that I kind of wanted this community to be for, right? People that can just pick up, learn, create something from nothing, from scratch, and and then start to have these type of effects, and all of this, man, done in half a year, so look at that. We have no idea what the next 6 months, next year or 2 years are going to look like, but I'm really fascinated to be able to watch this back, and be like, oh my gosh, like we never knew what this Dan guy was capable of. Here he is firing on all cylinders. So thank you, man. I'm really grateful to have your time, and you just being locked in, man. You're so supportive inside the community. People I know lean on you for advice, and you're in there, and it's also lovely because it kind of feels like a 24/7 community, because while we're sleeping, you're awake, and I wake up and I see you responding to things, and then we've got other people in other. It's awesome, man. So it's like kind of is this 24/7, always on sort of community. So no, keep that up, man. We really appreciate your involvement, and whatever we can do to support you and help you throughout this, man. Everyone's here to see you win, man. So hopefully we can do many more of these and see where it takes you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that, and likewise, thank you to all the effort and knowledge and support you've poured into this, because I think it's changed a lot of people's lives and a lot of people's perspectives, and to everyone else out in the community, feel free to hit me up, message me. Always up for a chat about this stuff, and if I can support in any way, I'm more than happy to. Right, so
Brilliant.
Just send us a message and we'll get on it.
Solid. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your time, man. We'll catch up soon, brother.
Thanks, Omar. Cheers, mate.
Okay.
Bye.
Clap, 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 we're done just right. 5-day sprint took us to new heights.